everyone, it's Brenda Riches from RunPerfect.com, and today I'm going to add more emphasis on why it's important to avoid overthinking your running mechanics while you run so that you can run longer because you'll have less mental noise going on in your mind, and with having a quieter mind during running may free up more energy to add to your endurance capacity for running. It's no surprise that running is, in a sense, a mental game. With that said, we all know that sometimes during running, our mind can get the best of us and corrupt our running performance. That is why it may be a little counterproductive if you clutter your mind with too many thoughts about how you run. I've done a few previous videos on what to think about during running, but I just wanted to make a few new points about what to think when you run, because I like to reaffirm the overview that what you think about when you run can have a massive impact on your endurance capacity during running. It's been speculated that the less you think when you run, the more the furtherance you may have for running, because there is a massive mental element to running, which is linked to energy expenditure. For instance, if you are mentally overwhelmed and frustrated when you're running at your goal pace and you're trying to be tactical at the same time, the mental noise and mental frustration may threaten your stamina and may certainly complicate running and may create conditions for performance vulnerabilities and potential setbacks. There is a collection of enormous amounts of research that makes the strong case that what you think about during running actually matters in terms of sustaining movement efficiency, which translates into endurance that is more sustainable for long distance running. For example, there's a sports psychologist, Dr. Patrick Cohns, who has looked extensively on the effects of the mental game on movement mechanics, specifically in golf. Because golf, just like running, has a very strong mental game component to it, such that if your mind is clogged with pressurized thoughts, it may negatively affect your swing mechanics when you play golf. And Dr. Cohns coined the term paralysis by overanalysis, which implies that it may be hard to support good, efficient mechanics when you are too self-consciously aware of everything your body is doing and feeling all at once while you are trying to run fast. This is why I think the concept of paralysis by overanalysis fits so nicely in the context of running, because as many runners well know, the mental game can either improve or dismantle running performance. Good running performance in running is essentially mechanically driven. You need to have good mechanics to run with good efficiency in most cases. That is why thinking about maintaining good biomechanics should be one of the highest priorities during running, especially long distances. But maintaining efficient biomechanics, preventing your mechanics from eroding over the long distances, can be a daunting task for many runners, but it doesn't have to be. And Dr. Patrick Cohns provides very good insight as to how to best use your mind to run without losing control, both mentally and physically. And keeping with Dr. Patrick Cohns' rationale, paralysis by overanalysis, running with a quieter mind by limiting your thought processes to one thing or one thought at a time could make endurance running less pressing, less taxing, and may be a good or useful tool to help you internally go the distance. When it comes to running, many coaches place big emphasis on executing good mechanics, and rightfully so, because to run well with efficiency and less impact, of course, you need to keep and maintain good running mechanics. In that regard, many coaches, at least with my experience, will tell you to hold your head this way, to swing your arms this way, to carry your arms this way, have a high knee drive, pick up your feet higher behind you when you run tall, don't slouch, don't run with your head down, don't heel strike, land on the front part of your foot, and at the same time, cycle your breathing pattern. Essentially, do all of these things while trying to run at your best. From a mental perspective, you can certainly see how thinking intensively about all these mechanical components and aspects all at once is quite an undertaking during running, which is an obvious thing to say because it means you are now having to work harder when you think too much and run hard all at the same time. And Dr. Patrick Cohns makes the impressive argument that when you overthink your biomechanics, Simultaneously, which means all at once, during a physical activity like running, you may physically choke under the immense mental pressure that you are placing on yourself when you run. Because running with this type of noise in the head takes a mental toll, which could potentially transcend into the onset of premature fatigue. And who needs that when you're running a marathon? When you overthink or overengage your thought processes or your mind too intensively while trying to run at your best, doing so may claim your performance outcome by potentially causing you to lose your rhythmic flow, creating more physical restraints, which may cause you to run with more attention in many areas, which may zap energy and may create new vulnerabilities that you can certainly do without. A potential solution and resolve to open up more economical territory for running is to think only about one thing at a time when you run. And this strategic approach has a special relevance in the realm of running because, as stated by Dr. Combs, thinking about one thing in your mind when you run may minimize the potential physical burden that comes with feeling mentally overwhelmed when you think too much about too many things all at once when you're running. I prefer to focus only on foot strike mechanics when I run, so I only focus on maintaining an accurate forefoot strike landing pattern. And that's all I think about. And the objections against this is not well founded. You have to remember, as things stand now in terms of the research, in most cases, running efficiency, impact protection, and therefore injury prevention starts essentially with how your foot strikes the ground when you run. If you land with a forefoot strike landing pattern during running, doing so facilitates less impact production and is the incentive you need to help you avoid injury. And also, forefoot running has a mechanical influence with helping you run faster with less mechanical effort and again with less impact production. However, I think it's fair to say that there are other variables and aspects rooted in causing running related injuries and delivers poor performance outcomes as well. Such aspects may include dietary factors, muscle strength imbalances, running experience, overtraining, but there is a connection between foot strike mechanics and injury prevalence. And this connection is certainly more obvious with respect to the involvement of foot strike mechanics in influencing performance and injury prevention. In that spirit, if you're not thoughtful about how your foot strikes the ground during running, of course, you always want to make sure that you are landing with a forefoot strike landing pattern and not a heel strike landing pattern when you run. If you aren't consciously aware of your forefoot strike, this may chart an injurious course on your running path. That is why you may want to prioritize thinking about how to manage your forefoot strike mechanics during running. You may want to make your forefoot strike your core central mental focus and really nothing else beyond that, because you don't want to lose sight of how you are stepping on the ground with your foot. And of course, I'm speaking to inexperienced forefoot runners, those who are learning forefoot running. If you are very experienced, then do what works for you. But I really just like to give my angle and perspective to provide added advice to be considered. However, for example, if you heel strike during running, especially at faster running speeds, the necessity to reduce impact and force production is essentially diminished. So there is certainly a connection between foot strike mechanics and injury. So again, just to reaffirm that this is why during running, you may want to have your thought process sharply aimed at maintaining a soft, light forefoot strike landing pattern and think less about a million other different things all at once when you're running. Like I said, it makes it difficult to run swiftly, efficiently, and conserve energy when you run with too much mental clutter that competes for your attention in maintaining a safe forefoot strike landing pattern that goes into helping stave off injury. Overthinking about multiple things during endurance running may deeply make it difficult to concentrate on what really matters, which is maintaining good forefoot strike mechanics to ensure a low impact environment. And thinking about one thing at once when you run won't chip away at your endurance when running long distances. And at the mental game level, running can be a hard balancing act for many, and energy conservation can depend largely on how well you control your mind to avoid double disappointment in your running performance. With that said, value through its association with better movement efficiency, limiting your thought process to one thing at a time during running. So again, for example, you might want to solely focus on your forefoot strike landing, may potentially make you more capable at reducing injury and saving lots of energy. This approach may be an effective strategy that makes running less mentally distracting and daunting, which is a good end game that supports saving energy when you run. The bottom line here is that what's most symptomatic about running with mental clutter is momenting physical fatigue, because you'll be more under pressure, and premature physical fatigue is usually the initial reaction of the body when you are mentally overwhelmed. That is why it's justifiable to run with a quieter mind by limiting your thinking as a means to save energy, as you'll most likely move with more finesse simply by designating your thoughts to think about one thing at a time when you're out there running, and your thought direction should maybe be placed on your forefoot strike landing pattern in order to engage less intensively with the ground and place less mental emphasis on all other mechanical aspects all at once. Overthinking may not be a sustainable condition for running efficiently over long distances. So that's just a small window into the dilemma that may complicate running long distances. There are reasons some runners have a hard time learning forefoot running, and one reason could be due to focusing on way too many things all at once with respects to biomechanics during running. And just to reassert that overthinking too much when you run may be a recipe for an internal collision, and you may get too frustrated with running, and then running may not be fun. So just stay with focusing on your forefoot strike landing pattern when you run, and don't do things that will complicate or compete for your attention and add to the feeling of being overwhelmed, and hopefully will better your performance. For more information on forefoot running versus heel strike running, please visit my blog, runforefoot.com, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay updated on all the latest research regarding the health benefits of barefoot and minimalist running. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Have fun out there on the roads. Bye for now.